Hey, it's Shel Anderson. I'm here today to share a card with you that I am calling the tile backsplash technique. The supplies that we're going to need for today's card are a card base, and I've chosen this beautiful blue card base. And this is a standard card base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. For the inside, so we have a nice place to write our greeting, I have a piece of white cardstock that is 4 by 5 1/4, which is going to leave us a nice little border for the inside. All right, so our inside is done. We're going to set away. Now I have another piece of the blue cardstock, and this is also 4 by 5 1/4, and this is going to be the piece that we're going to work on. And I have taken some tape and put it all the way around the perimeter of this card. And what I'm going to do is I am going to just lift one end for now, and I am going to place black strips of cardstock, and my strips are 1/2 inch. I've done this with smaller pieces, and I tried it with larger pieces. I didn't like it with anything larger than 1/2 inch. If your card base was larger than a standard card, that might work. But with a standard size card, I like the 1/2 inch. And I'm putting those strips right tight together as I can get them. And right now they're only attached at the top. All right, and you can do this in whatever color you like. I just chose this one because I thought that it would be fun to make a card that is for a guy. Guy cards are hard for me. I tend to lean more towards the female cards, the flowers and the birds and the nature. Okay, so now we have that strip down. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to weave this piece of blue in between every other piece. And then I'm going to slide it right up tight at the top. I'm going to take the next layer of, or the next strip of blue, and I'm going to do opposite of what I did the first time, meaning that if I went under to start, I'm going over to start. And then I'm going to slide that up nice and tight up to the top as far as we can get it. And that's important because the tighter it is, the tighter the weave is, the more stable it's going to be. So now we're just going to continue this, alternating back and forth until we fill up the front of the card. And as you can see, this is pretty easy to do. It's not difficult. A little bit time consuming, but the end result I think is worth it. And I'm just sliding those up nice and tight to the top. Getting closer. And don't worry about your sides. We're going to trim those all off afterwards. Woo! Got a little overzealous there. Getting close. I think maybe one more and we shall be done. Maybe two. We'll see. There we go. Turn it around here, make it easier for me. When you get down to the bottom end, it's a little more difficult. There we go. Just slide that in there like so. All right, so there's a look from the top. And as you can see, it looks like little tiles. Now we have to grab something to remove those paper backings. And then we're just going to press it down. And same thing on this side. I'm just sliding the paper piercer underneath to get a hold of those strips, and then just pressing it flat. All right, one more to go down here at the bottom end. Oh, that one slipped on me. Let's get that in there straight. All right, so you'll see that this one, every alternate one is not glued down. So now you're just going to take a little bit of wet adhesive and just put a dot on each of the top ones. And just press those down. All right. As I said, it's a little bit time consuming, but it's really cool in the end. All right. And this one's all good here. All right. Now we get our paper trimmer, and we are going to trim off the excess. Got a little string here. All right. Now this one looks a little wonky to me. so many layers there. There we go. Turn that up in a second. Here we go. There we go. And there is our start of our background. All right, so all of these strips, we can put these aside. All right. And then we'll get rid of this garbage. All right, I'm just grabbing my heat tool here, and we will get started. Oh, it's right here. No wonder I couldn't find it. It's right beside me. All right, so now we're going to need to have a silicone mat to put under our work. And now comes the artsy fartsy part of this. Oops, I have a little piece here that's still hanging on. Let me get my scissors and I'll trim that. There we go. All right, so now I have Versamark ink, which is a clear ink pad, and I am just going to press the Versamark all over the front of this. All right. Now I'm going to turn my heat tool on to heat this up. And I'm going to get a piece of scrap paper. And we are going to cover this with clear embossing powder. I'm going to wait and turn the heat tool on after I finish talking here. You're not going to be able to hear me if I turn that on. So basically what we're going to do is completely cover this with embossing powder, tap off the excess, and put it back in the can here. Okay, so that's what it looks like, is all powdery. So we'll put that back in there. And now we are going to heat this up and melt the embossing powder. There we go. It's starting to melt.
Once the gun gets heated up really well, it will happen very quickly. It's just the first time when your gun's not hot. And you see, as that melts, it gets all nice and shiny, and I find that it looks more like little tiles now. Because all the little tiles on a backsplash would be nice and shiny, eh? All right. Now it's going to take me a minute to get in between each of those tiles, because where the cardstock, each of those strips meet, the embossing powder actually lays in there and it stays white looking. And I don't know whether the camera's picking that up, but you actually have to put your heat tool right into each of those crevices so that it will melt that powder. I'll hold this up close. Can you see where it's white and where it's not? It's very hot, I'll tell you that. Whew. There we go. I think we have them all. Now, if that was not to cover like that, and it didn't cover well, and there's a spot right here, what I would do is once again put the Versamark on it. Put it back on the scrap paper and recoat it. All right. Tap off the excess. Let's put the cover on this before I spill it. All right, we'll bring the tool back in and heat it up again. And I find if you put at least 2 coats on it, it looks so much nicer. It smooths it out more the more coats you put on it. So I would recommend at least 2 coats. And as you can tell, it goes much faster the second coat because the heat tool is all warmed up. And like I said earlier, you can use this with whatever color cardstock you like. I just went with the blue and the black because I wanted to make a masculine card. So it's whatever you like. And this is a great way to use up scraps from your scrap bin as well. All right. I am happy with that. Check out that background. Isn't that gorgeous? All right, that's very warm. We are going to set that aside and clean up the stray embossing powder that I have everywhere. All right, I have pre-cut some circles. I have 2 circles and a scalloped circle. And I just did it in the same blue and the same black. Okay. Now, if you wanted to, you could put Versamark around the edges to make it match. I'm not going to do that tonight. It's just a little more time consuming, and I don't want this video to go too long. So I've just layered up that circle. And now I am going to grab a stamp set. Where is my stamp set? I have chosen the Sailing Home stamp set, and I thought it would be cool if we put a little sailboat on there and maybe some birds. And I'm actually not going to put a greeting on the outside of this card, I don't think. I'm not positive, but I don't think. All right, let me get a mat to stamp on, and we'll get a block. And we will stamp this with some Memento ink. And we'll work on this focal image while that tile background is cooling off. And that didn't work well. I have shadows. So we're going to clean this off and start again. I hate it when I get halos. All right, let's try again. Much better. All right, now we're going to put a couple of little birds up in the sky. And this set has some little seagulls, so just like so. All right. Now I am going to grab a couple of markers. I have Light Misty Moonlight, and I'm going to color the sails blue. And this is a very small image, so it's not going to take a lot of coloring. Okay, and maybe a crumb cake for the boat. And I'm just basically adding a wash of color on there. And I think I'm happy with that for the boat. Let's try a little bit of seaside spray down at the bottom for the water. I'm happy with that. Sometimes simple is good. And we're just going to plop that right in the middle there. All right. Now we're going to go back to this piece. Got powder everywhere. All right. So now this is very thick and very stiff. So I'm not putting this on dimensionals. I'm going to put this flat on the front of the card, and I am going to use lots of liquid glue because I want it to stick very well. And it's probably going to take a minute for me to get this set up because I'll probably have to hold it in place. Like I said, it's very, very thick. We'll just give it a little back rub. Let that glue set up. Very nice. This card has some weight to it, ladies. All right. So I said I wasn't going to put a greeting on there, but I may change my mind. No, I think I'm just going to let the background be the star of the show. So I'm just going to use some dimensionals to place this, and I'm being overly generous. I'm putting 5 dimensionals on here because I want it to stick well to this shiny embossed background, and I'm going to plop it right in the middle of the card.
like so. And that, I'm not even going to add any more embellishments because I want that tile background to be the star of the show. So there is a masculine tile backsplash technique card, and you can put whatever sentiment you want inside. It can be for any occasion. It could be for a male birthday, it could be a thank you, it could be anything. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this card, and I would love to see what you come up with. All right, that's all for today. Bye-bye now.